Joined now by Todd Leary, the Todd father. Last night was a very late tip. We don't do post-game shows at 11 o'clock at night. I'm like, are you out of your mind? But we'll do them on the next day. And Todd, good thing we didn't wait up for that because there was nothing good to talk about from an Indiana perspective. They went to Nebraska and got their crap kicked out of them.
Yeah, and when we don't do our shows after late night games, and it was a good, exciting game, and they played well, I always regret it. And boy, I never felt better about a decision than after last night's game because I needed a few hours to sleep and let my mood settle down after that because that was tough to watch. Like they were manhandled by Nebraska, and we're not talking about football, and that's hard to say. It's hard to spit out.
Yeah, and a lot of comparisons made between Indiana and Nebraska, between their football program not being where they wanted to be and Indiana's basketball program not being where they wanted to be. Well, they're getting their football program coming around, and the basketball program is Fred Hoiberg. It's taken a while. And they've been very patient with him.
Yeah, they have.
But that's not an easy place to win. It never has been. Hell, they've never won. It's never been a winning place. But to be able to do what they did last night, to play as well as they did, he's got something put together. They're not doing this stuff accidentally. They limit teams getting to the free throw line, which is one of Indiana's strengths, even though they only shoot 65%. They forced Indiana into 19 turnovers, of which they had 27 points off of those turnovers. That's one of the biggest disparities to 6 for Indiana that I can recall in some time.
Yeah, well, and when you go look at the turnovers, it's become so cliche. Every announcer talks about it now and says live ball turnovers versus dead ball turnovers and how much worse they are. Well, the poster child for the description of those was last night's game because whenever a team has a lot of turnovers, usually when I'm just looking at it analytically, I'll go look immediately at the steals to see how many of them were, because a steal is basically a live ball turnover. And so you go look at that. And when this team had 15 steals, that you said a minute ago, staggering number of points off of turnovers. 15 steals in a game is unheard. That's crazy. And I think we can all remember, back to last night. It seemed like every time Indiana drove into the lane, somehow the ball ended up going the other direction. Like it got taken from them. It didn't matter if it was Renew, Galloway, Xavier. It didn't make a difference who it was. And that is just, that's difficult to win doing that. That's not the norm. We haven't seen this team do this. Road game in the Big Ten, is that the reason? I don't know. I don't love having that. I mean, the Big Ten is more physical. There's no two ways about it. The officials officiated it more like the Big Ten, which these guys are just going to have to get a little bit more used to. But, Jim, I kept thinking about it last night and put the two starting lineups across from each other. If you want to go 7 or 8 deep, then go 7 or 8 deep on that. But you line up man for man, Indiana's player and Nebraska's player. Not their stats, not how it came out in the game. Obviously, we would change that. But, I mean, we wouldn't trade any of our players for any of their players if you're looking at them physically, okay? But, boy, they sure took a bunch of no-starred athletes, and I don't mean that disrespectfully to them. I mean that as a compliment. I was a no-star, so trust me, I root for every one of them.
There's no stars inside of there. That's the thing right there.
And inside of here, I wish they would have two separate rating systems. One is a physical rating system, and one is a mental basketball IQ rating system, because those would be completely flip-flopped if you looked at the game last night, because their team didn't have much athletically, and I that can't come out of your mouth without sounding disrespectful, but I don't mean it that way. But we got we got outsmarted, outplayed, out hustled. To an extent you could say outcoached, but I'm not saying we got outcoached because we lost. Like, that's how I look at it. Like, I don't think the coaching staff is to blame for this. I think everyone is to blame in this scenario. But man, it's difficult to come up with. When we're playing Auburn, you put the two Auburn guys, you match up the lineups side by side, and you're looking at it like, okay. I mean, they got great athletes too. Like, they've got guys they were guys that were nationally ranked. Kansas, you look at those, and you're like, all right, but not Nebraska. I mean, there wasn't a guy we would have traded for on either side. What do you laugh? What happened? Oh, come on, Justin.
Oh man.
It's
you
funny. Hey, you said earlier
I'm not
the
most
incredible stat of the night was the 27 points off turnovers. I thought the most incredible stat was that Tominga's dad was 6'11". Did you hear him say that?
No, I did not. I missed that.
He's not even 5'11". His dad's 6'11".
Man, he got screwed on that deal, didn't he?
Oh my gosh, he'd be a top 5 NBA pick if he was 6'11".
He'd be Dirk Nowitzki the second.
He would be.
Yeah, just in Indiana, not forcing turnovers, not doing anything that it took to win.
Look, we're Indiana people, so we watch it really closely, and I'll be surprised if you didn't feel this same way. But it seemed like on defense, we were reacting to whatever they were doing. Their offense was dictating what was going to happen, and our defense was trying to stop it. And then on offense, their defense was dictating what they were letting us do, and we weren't the ones in control of what was going on. And I just felt like on both ends of the court, Nebraska was in control. They dictated what we did, and that doesn't usually come out as a good result for your team trying to win. So, that this is a game where I think they've got to look at a lot of things and come up with, I don't want to say more of a game plan, because every time you say that, then people think that you're saying that the coaches are to blame in that regard. I don't understand. Think about it. Think about this though, Jim. And I'm not making excuses, because I will say this for any team. I would have said it for Purdue a couple of weeks ago when they lost to Northwestern. But I thought about it yesterday during the day, and these are the worst type games. It's not an excuse, because every team deals with it. But when you play a road game at 9 p.m., they arrived in Nebraska yesterday sometime between 4 in the afternoon and 9 last night, and then you sit around in that hotel room all day long. And I got younger kids, so I preach to them all the time. If you just lay around the house all day, at the end of the day, like, you're gonna feel like nothing, like you didn't accomplish anything. And it is very difficult to come up with a schedule. And I would say Indiana probably has as good a shot as anyone, having Woody come from the NBA atmosphere. But it's difficult to lay around in a hotel room. Yes, they have shoot around. Yes, they do walkthroughs and those kind of things. But it's just hard to get yourself going in a 9 p.m. road game. And I don't want to make excuses, because, hey, that's not why we lost. We lost because we got manhandled by Nebraska. But when you add all the factors together, please don't everyone jump. And you can get mad at me for saying don't blame the coaches. I'm not that I don't care. I don't think the coaches are necessarily any more to blame than the players in this regard. I mean, you've got to, at some point, think about it this way last night, Jim. Run down a list. Give me 3 guys last night on Indiana's team that you thought were kind of the alpha male. Like, who was the guy running the show for last night for Indiana?
Normally it's been Malik Renew, and it wasn't him last night.
Well, it was him.
He did okay, but he wasn't the leader
as much as anyone. But he's not he can't do it on his own. That's why we've struggled a little bit, I think, against some of the lesser last 3 opponents that we played, because Xavier is not in there, and Xavier is the alpha of this team, bar none. The second best one is Malik, and he's below him. It's age related. It's experience and age related. But we don't have someone that's going to take over and stop the bleeding right now when things are going bad. And that's, that's going to be a tough position. I hate to say it, but man, I saw the guy with the Ken Palm predictions yesterday that said we would finish January 1-7 in our January games. And I was like, well, that's just complete BS. And then watching that game last night, I have no defense for it might be 1-7.
And a big part of that, last night, Indiana gets 21 points total from 5 different guards. They're just not getting production in the backcourt. And that's not even one person. That's 5 different guys combined for 21 points. That is not going to win any game.
Yeah, it's not. And I'll tell you a stat that just this tells a lot. Now, what does it tell? There's a whole list of things that you could say are a result of this. But our starting lineup last night, only 2 guys shot free throws. And that was Renew shot 4 and Ware shot 4. Mbako never got to the line. Xavier never got to the line. Trey never got to the line. I can go down the list. Gabe
How
never
about
got
Trey
to the line.
or Anthony
CJ
Walker?
If he
off the bench.
Hang on, I want to talk about that in just a second. But only having 2 guys that drove into the lane and got fouled says a lot. There's a lot of different things that lead up to that particular part of the stat sheet. Let's look at the stat sheet, because if you go down and look at the team statistics, Indiana kind of outplayed them, to be honest with you, except for they out-rebounded them. They shot a better percentage. They free throws were fairly, not crazy one way or another. But then when you look at the points off turnovers and the steals and that stuff, the assists, the part of that where you can't look at the analytics in a
all
game
the little
like
things.
This. Well, Indiana shot 9 of 18 from the 3-point line. Okay, great.
All day long.
We would take that all day
long.
Except for 2 of those came from Trey Galloway. 1 of them came from CJ Gunn, and 1 of them came from Mbako. That's 4 of those took place in the last 3 minutes of the game when we were already down by 20. So technically, we were really only 5 for 13 going into, because we shot 1 at the end and missed it. So, we were 5 for 13 in reality during the meat and potatoes of the game when it really mattered. So that's when you can look at a stat sheet and be like, yeah, that all 3 of those or all 4 of those baskets were assisted. So that also helps the assist category. The stats don't always tell the full story of a game, because if you look at this, you would have said this is a very evenly matched game. Like it was probably really close just going down the stat sheet. We shot 47%. They shot 46%. We were 9 of 18 from 3. They were 12 for 32. They only made 3 more than us. They shot 77% from free throw. We shot 69%. We out-rebounded them 36-29. You would have thought, reading those stats, this game was pretty close and maybe one team, made a couple plays down the end to win. And we know that wasn't even the case, because after the 9-minute mark of the first half, this game was over. Like they were total control of it.
Absolutely. And that's the thing that has to give Hoosier fans worry going forward, because it's just not going to get easier. Indiana welcomes in an Ohio State team this weekend. They'll be at home, but Ohio State's one of those teams that's in the middle of the Big Ten, and they look at this stuff. Craig Holtman looks at these numbers and says, all right, this is where we have to develop our game plan on how they're going to play Indiana. And I think a lot of other people are starting to do this as well, because it's starting to become a pattern for this team.
Yeah, and it is. And let's not forget to go back and talk about Anthony Walker in a second, because I do think that's something that needs to be discussed. But I'll tell you one of the stats in this game that to me, this is how I know Indiana didn't play the way they've been practicing in the last few games. Because what happened after the Auburn game? When Indiana played Kansas after the Auburn game, what happened at the beginning of that game? Every time down the floor, Indiana was pushing the ball down the floor as fast as they can, driving it to the basket, trying to get to the free throw line. They were trying to get some easy baskets. Okay. Look at fast break points from last night. Indiana had one fast break point. That is not how this team has been building itself for the last month. And they have really, really focused on trying to get easy baskets, getting the ball down the floor. I understand it's the Big Ten. I know that things are a little bit different when you get into conference play, except for this was Nebraska we were playing, not Wisconsin. Like, they were not trying to slow it down. They would have played as fast as we wanted to play. So that one fast break point is that to me tells me that we didn't execute a game plan the way it was supposed to be done, because we're supposed to be a team that gets up and down the floor a little more often or a little faster.
Indiana is the one thing that they have done has been consistently inconsistent this season.
Yeah.
That's the only consistency that we've seen so far from them. And it has to give fans pause for concern going forward. As you said, they were picked to be 1-7 in the month of July and January.
Yeah.
You go 1-7 in January, the season is over.
If you go under 500 in January and it's over. Like, they've got to do some good special stuff. Losing this game doesn't throw it out the window, but I mean, it makes it more difficult. This was a game you needed to win. Like, this game sets you aside where you are in a good position to finish in the top 5 in the Big Ten. Now you're kind of in the middle of the pack. You're just right there with everybody.
And every opportunity they have like this that you don't take advantage of, put your back further and further against the wall as you go farther out.
Yeah. And you know, our fans, this is what we do. Like, I'm with you. I love to do this stuff. And we start second guessing and saying, well, we got to change the starting lineup and we got to do this and do that. And I'll tell you, like, I'm usually not something needs to be shaken up. They're not cohesive and they're not playing that well together. And now going back to the Anthony Walker comment, I would put Anthony Walker in the starting lineup. Like, Trey Galloway has always played well in his career coming off the bench. I would give it a shot. I would try it. I would think about even trying it if it was for Mbako. But he's also a freshman, and you don't want to mess with his brain too much. You don't want him thinking even more than he already is. But I mean, I'd try something. I at this point, I don't think Woody will. I mean, I think he's proven over the years he doesn't mess with the lineup all that often. I don't understand why. The guys in the NBA do care. These guys don't care as much or shouldn't care as much. I mean, I want Trey Galloway to play just as many minutes as he's playing, but I wouldn't mind seeing him come in off the bench. And I'll defend this statement till the cows come home, as Anthony Walker deserves the opportunity to play more minutes and be in the starting lineup. He's earned it, in my opinion. That's
the same reason Anthony Leal was on the floor last night. Yeah. I mean, you talked about him earning more minutes, and he has done that, and he has been in at least three games in a row.
Right.
And I know that you're way more intelligent on these matters than I am, so that's why I will go out on the limb and say, you know, at some point we have to look at what the coaching staff is doing with the program, because this is year 3, and this should be a slow upward trend, but upward nonetheless. And this season is far from upward. Yes, I know that having Xavier get hurt, it hurts. Ja'Kai Newton, that hurts. But they also have an open scholarship that they didn't fill for no reason whatsoever that left them thin at guard. They were unable to land the guard that they needed. And it just makes you wonder, is this what Hoosier fans are going to look forward to, a little roller coaster over the next few years, going some few ups and back down?
All right, so don't get mad at me when I do this to you, but I'll put you on the spot here, and I'm gonna. This is what I would say to someone.
That's why I would defer to you, man.
When people make these statements, I learned this from Coach Knight, so blame him, not me. But I make people explain their statement when they say something like that. But who's the guard that you just said Indiana missed? They weren't able to sign the guard that they wanted. Who's the guard that you're saying?
No, it wasn't one. They went after several. The kid that went up to Tennessee. There were just a number of guys that they were not able to land.
Yeah. Okay. I thought you meant like a new recruit that was going on, because
No.
all the time I say, like when we don't land, whomever it might be, the kid that ended up going to Kentucky, like when we don't land certain players, everybody's like, oh, Woody's missed out on this guy or whatever. I mean, producer John was talking about it before we came on. Like some of our best players, some of our players who have ended up, 2 or 3 years into the career as the best player on the team were not 5-star guys. And our fan base, I will say this about our fan base. Our fan base does not get excited about anyone that is not a 5-star or super close to a 5-star. And that's just crazy. Like that you don't know what a guy's going to perform like until he's on campus and in the situation and practicing daily. And so I don't try to act like too big a know-it-all when it comes to that, but over the years, I hate these ranking systems. Like the ranking
as you should, because like you said, I was a 0-star.
Yeah.
Calbert Chaney had to get what's his name had to get Bob Knight to give him another look. Ron
Right.
Felling. Felling had to basically beg Knight to give it. Brian Evans, another guy. Brian said, I was a 0-star. I was a nothing. All these guys that weren't, but they were developed. We're not seeing that, and everybody's going to point to Jalen Hood-Schifino. He's a talent. You can't say that you developed a 5-star.
I'm not saying I don't want 5 stars. I mean, I do want 5 stars. I think you need a couple of them sprinkled in. Like we have the right amount sprinkled in. Like who on this team would you say Woody's pretty much directly responsible for having on this team? Where? Because a year ago we didn't even know his name. Mbako. Responsible for him,
and as well, Malik Renew.
No, wasn't Renew already coming here? Well, he may not have been. So if you add him to the list, it makes the list even stronger, because the guys who he's brought in are producing. It's time for the other guys to step up, and I'm with you. The coaches need to do something to change it and shake it up. Their job is to get the most out of what these guys' abilities are, and then bring guys in that you're more comfortable coaching, that have the abilities that you want to coach. And it comes down to this, in my opinion, and I do think it is this simple, and coaches will shake it off. But when you can make shots, you make up for an awful lot. I can guarantee I could go through Nebraska's game film from yesterday and nitpick the crap out of it, a bunch of things that they did wrong. But when Wilcher came in the first half and got hot and made 3 threes in the first half, like just as easy as can be, their offense looked a lot better. It looked like we couldn't stop their offense. It's because they made some really difficult, tough shots. And then Kuminga, like that little dude, I mean, he's just fun to have on your team and watch him play. Like I watch Nebraska, not just because I know Coach Hoiberg, but I mean, I watch them all the time because that dude's fun to watch. When he gets going, he's fun to watch.
There's nothing more enjoyable watching an unheralded player just having a blast, kicking some of the crap out of somebody that they shouldn't be doing it to.
Yeah. I like the announcers that they had. I love Sean Morris on there, but man, I was really irritated when they kept saying that the Kuminga, and then they said it for Wilcher also, that whenever Gabe Cupps was
Taminiga.
Yeah, sorry.
Taminga.
Sorry.
No, I'm trying to.
I know. I say it wrong.
I go along.
It's pronounced Casey Tominaga.
Tominaga. I'm sorry.
We're not even close. Neither one of us.
My high school coach Kiefer, he was always the same way. He always mispronounced everyone's names. I think he did it intentionally. But Tominaga, I mean that dude, he's infectious. He's fun to watch. He gets things going. Now there's times when Hoiberg wants to strangle him because he takes some horrendous shots. Sometimes he just goes in crazy and makes them. But the announcers last night were just pounding Gabe Cupps every single time one of those guys scored on him. They were pounding the fact that he was a freshman, and I'm just like, what are you supposed to do? Like, who cares what age that kid is? The kid didn't play that bad of defense. They blamed Gabe Cupps for a back cut one time. That Gabe Cupps wasn't even the guy guarding the guy on the back cut. Like, he had gone to help. It was just, I don't like it when they single players out like that. I thought Gabe Cupps played good last night. I thought he was He was as solid as we had in there. This is what I don't like about – this is what I wish the coaching staff did, and you would be able to tell if this was the case. They need to go to Gabe Cupps, Anthony Leal. Anthony Leal hurt us last night because he didn't shoot enough. Now, that's a pretty easy thing to fix. But anytime, I mean, would you agree with this? Anytime
he hit his only shot that he took.
Anytime he's open, I don't care. Anytime Mbako's open, anytime Anthony Leal is open, right now, anytime Malik Renew is open from the three-point line, they should shoot it. I don't care if it's one shot, one pass into the possession, or at the end of the shot clock. They should shoot it. And Anthony Leal had a wide open look from the top of the key last night, and he didn't shoot it. And we ended up getting a horrendous shot at the end of a shot clock because of it. And that's his fault. That's a turnover. That's his fault that he had a wide open look. They're not easy to come by, and you got to take those. But Gabe Cupps last night, he missed a shot. He made his first shot, and then I think he missed a shot not too long after that. And I even said at that point, he won't shoot anymore. He had to shoot that three-pointer in the corner in the second half because we ran such a good play and he was so wide open. But, I mean, you can tell what their confidence goes straight in the toilet as soon as they miss a shot. And that just can't be the case. Like, they can't continue.
And
that.
Anthony Leal, I'll say he's been conditioned over 3 years to not shoot. He's not the guy. He's been conditioned to not shoot the ball. And actually, he made a career in high school of being the guy taking those shots. And I don't care who it was against. It's the confidence that's inside of here of being able to do what you're attempting to do. And I agree with you. He needs to take any and all open shots that he has.
Yeah, so I was looking to see what it was. Yeah, so Tominaga last night was 4 for 10 from the three-point line. It seems like he made everyone, from our perspective, it seemed like he made everyone that he took. But I'll tell you right now, if and I firmly believe this, if you did it 3 games in a row and you said, Anthony Leal, you have to shoot the ball, you have to shoot 10 three-pointers in this game. Like, you got to put him up at a high clip. I think he would make 3 or 4 or 5 of those in almost every game. And like, I think Mbako would too. I don't care if he takes bad shots. With him, I don't care. But these other guys, anytime that you're open and you don't take a shot, like I used to say this all the time, and people, people might believe it or might not quite understand it. But Coach Knight would get just as mad at us for not taking an open shot as he would if we took a bad shot and missed it. Because it's not that easy to run an offense and get an open look.
It's what you were working for.
Right. And when you get one and you don't take it, it's like, oh my gosh, we got to start all over again and get this. And most of the time when someone passes up a good look, the team gets a terrible shot at the end of that shot clock. And that's not just Indiana. That's every team in general. But Indiana is bad at it because we don't have that many players that when they are open and have the ball, we are all screaming at the TV to shoot it. But Anthony Leal needs to be one of those guys. And so does Gabe Cupps. Right now, I mean, Trey Galloway is one of our guys that anytime he's open, he should shoot it from the three-point line. Malik Renew, anytime he's open from the three-point line, should shoot it.
I agree.
I don't know. It's last night was very, very frustrating. We don't get manhandled by Nebraska very often.